Hello everyone, welcome to our channel Coders Arcade. In my earlier videos, I have showed you about the object-oriented programming concepts in Python, where we learnt about classes, objects, and the init method, which is also known as the constructor. But in today's video, I will be talking in detail about two things, which are the init method or the constructor and the need for the self argument or parameter. Before starting the video, I want to tell you people to please like our videos and share it with your friends and family, and at the same time please subscribe to our channel so that you get a notification about the latest updates of new videos in our channel. So let us go on to PyCharm, where I will be showing you an example so that you can understand more about the init method or the constructor, and also about the keyword or the argument self. As you can see here, I already have a Python file named the init method and the self. So here I will start by creating a class for you. If you haven't seen my earlier video regarding object-oriented programming, I will give the link in the description. You can go and have a look at that video. So now I will start writing my class. Let me take or create a class employee, and for the time being I will not do anything with this class, so I cannot leave it blank, right? So I have to use the pass statement. Then I will show you how to create objects inside this class. Since this is an employee class, I will create objects by the name e1, and to make it an object of this class employee, what I have to do is I have to call the name of the class followed by parenthesis, and I will create another object or instance which will also be an object of this employee class, and I have to give the parenthesis again. I will provide one space here so that this highlighted gray text is gone. Now I want to ask you something. This E1 is an instance or an object of this employee class. In the same way, this E2 is also an instance or object of this employee class. But they will have a specific memory allocated to them, right? You might be knowing about the ID keyword, which tells the address or the location allocated to a certain object or variable. So in this case, if I use the ID keyword, I can print the ID of my objects. Say I will take my first object, which is E1, and similarly I will print the ID of the second object, which is E2. Now what do you think? If I run this program, will the ID of both the objects be same or will they be different? Let me run it for you so that you can get an idea about that. I'm running it. You can see the E1 object has a different ID and the E2 object has a different ID. That means these two are stored in different memory locations inside the computer. So what is this memory location called? This memory location is known as the heap memory of the computer. So whenever you create an object, the object is stored inside the heap memory of a computer. As many objects you create in your program, all these objects will be stored in the computer's heap memory, as you can see here in the picture. Now the question is that when we created the objects, the computer itself stored the objects in the heap memory. So what is the storage or the size of these objects? The size of these objects will depend on the total number of objects that we create. And who decides how to allocate the memory to these objects? This thing is decided by the constructor. As you can see here, while we created the employee 1 object and the employee 2 object, these two are called the constructors. Here what happened is, when you created E1 and E2, the constructor automatically did this and stored this E1 and E2 objects in the specified memory location. It was done inside, okay? We did not have to do it explicitly. It was done by the constructor itself. Now if you want to assign attributes to your objects, you can do it in two ways. You can do it by like this. I will show you how. you can tell e1.name is equal to, suppose, John. In the same way, you can also write e2.name equal to, say, Sam. And this is how you can assign attributes to the objects. This is one way of doing it. Now if I print the e1.name, and here if I print e2.name, and if I run my program now, you can see that the name John and Sam have been printed here in the console. You can do it in another way by using the init method. Let me show you how it is done. I will remove this pass statement and I will use the def keyword, and then I will write underscore underscore, and you can see it's suggesting me the init method. And right now we will not talk about this self. We will just go inside the body of the method and we will write self dot name is equal to, suppose, John. And what I will do is I will delete this too. I'm deleting this, and now you can see the difference. Now if I run it, you will find that I have created two instances or objects, e1 and e2. Now when I run this program, you will find that both the names e1 and e2 will have the value John. Let me run it for you. You can see when I printed e1.name and e2.name, I'm getting John in both the cases. So this is what is done by this init method. When we instantiated e1 and e2, just because we have given the attribute or the name which is John, therefore when we are instantiating and when we are printing the names of e1 and e2, we are getting John in both the cases. But if you want to do it in another way, you can do it by passing arguments here. What you can do is you can write name followed by, suppose, salary. Now here you have to change it to self.name equal to name followed by self.salary equal to salary. Okay, now I will run it again for you, and you can see one difference here. I'm running it. It says there is an error. The name and salary arguments are not provided here. So what I can do is here I can pass the name and salary, say John, and then I can pass the salary to be, say, 30,000. And in the second case, let me put Sam followed by it should be 30,000 and it should be, say, 35,000. Now if I run it, you will find that when I print e1.name and e2.name, I am getting the names John and Sam. But the question now is, why do you need this self? What is the use of this self here? For that, let me do one more thing. I will define another method here, say def, and here I will change the salary, say. And as you can see, by default it is taking the parameter self. Now here I can write self dot salary is equal to, say, 40,000. Now what I can do is I can call this method change. So how to do it? I have to use the name of my object, say e1, then I have to use the dot operator, and as you can see I'm getting this change method. So when I press enter, you can see this method will be called, and when I run it, it's not giving me anything. But for that, what I have to do is now I have to print the salary of e1 dot salary. So now if I run it, you can see earlier here I gave the salary to be 30,000, but just because I used the change method, the salary has got updated or changed, and now it's giving me the value 40,000 here. So how is that happening? You can see I call the change method using the name of my object, and then I use the change method. Inside the brackets there is no parameter. So how does this method know that we are calling the object E1? It knows this with the help of this self. So what actually happens is, when we call this change method, the focus or the pointer will point to this change method, and this self here will be pointing to this object E1 here. And therefore, even though we haven't supplied any parameter or argument here inside the parenthesis, what happens is this self will direct or point to this E1, and initially it had the salary 30,000, and after the change is done it will update or change the salary to 40,000. Therefore, what it means is, you may have n number of objects in your program. If you want to call any object, suppose you have 20 as you can see in the picture, and if you want to call the fourth object, then this self will point to that object and it will make the changes whatever you want to do. This is the use of this self. So now I think you have understood about the constructor as well as the self. So you can see, if I call e2.change, then if I change it to e2.salary, you can see earlier the salary was 35,000. If I run it now, you will find that when we are printing e2.salary, it's getting modified from 35,000 to 40,000 here. So this is a way of doing it, and this is the actual use of self here. Self is by default the argument or parameter that is taken inside a method in the class, and it will point to the object that you are calling. Depending on the object that you are calling, the self will refer to that object and do the operation that you were trying to do. And let me try to do one more thing. Let me try to compare the salary of employee 1 and employee 2. For that I will take one more method, say check, but before that I have to use the def keyword, and here also if I give the parenthesis, it will automatically take this self argument. But here what I have to do is, I have to take another argument, let it be e2, and then I will check if self.salary equal e2.salary. I have to give the colon, and then I will print, or else I can use the return statement as well, return true, or else I will return false. So now what happens is, this self will point to the object that calls this method, and this e2 will be the other object. So now let us check it. It should actually return false, because in this case what is happening is, the salary for both of them will be different, because when we use the attributes, the salary was 30 and 35. So let me remove this change method so that it doesn't make any changes in our program. Now what I will do is, I will also remove this print function, and here I will use my e1 object, and then I will use the check, and here you can see it's asking me for the other argument. So here I will give the second object, which is e2, and then if I run this program, you will see that there will be no output because I have to print this. So I will print it, then I will be getting the return statement, which is true or false. Now I'm running it again. Now you can see, just because the salary of both the employees or the objects E1 and E2 are different, therefore we are getting this false. So what is actually happening in this case when I am calling this check method? You can see it has the self which will refer to this E1, because with the help of this E1 object we are calling this check method, and this will be E2, and this argument will refer to the other one which is E2 here. And you should not worry about this, you can change this E2 to any other argument name also, you can give it other also. So here you have to change this E2 to other. So now what will happen is this self will refer to the object which is calling this check method, and this other will refer to the other argument. So now it will give you a clear idea. So here E1 will be the self which is pointing to the object E1, and this E2 will be the second object. Now if I run it, it will provide me the same result, which is false. So now you have understood about the init method or the constructor, as well as the need of this self. So this is all about this video, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you like the video, and if you like it, then tell us in the comment section below. If you have any doubts, then post them in the comment section. I will definitely try to clear those doubts. Also, like, share and subscribe to our channel Coders Arcade, and press the bell icon so that you will get a notification when we post a new video. Thank you. Happy learning.